The morning sun rose over the quiet town, casting long golden streaks across the empty streets. Ethan Walker tightened his worn jacket around his shoulders as he climbed into his rusty pickup, the engine coughing to life with a familiar groan. He glanced at the clock, 7:03 a.m. He was already late for work at the small auto shop downtown, but the thought of another long day did little to dampen the worry gnawing at his stomach. Raising his 7-year-old son, Noah had been harder than any mechanic's job he'd ever faced. Bills stacked like looming mountains, rent always due, and the constant fear that one mistake could tip their fragile life into ruin. As he drove, the rain began to sprinkle lightly, the kind that made the streets glisten like wet glass. That was when he saw her car stuck on the side of the road, wheels spinning helplessly in the mud. Without a second thought, Ethan pulled over. "Hey, you okay?" he called, his voice rough from sleep and worry. The woman looked up, startled, her dark hair plastered to her face from the rain. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and for a moment, Ethan felt a strange pang of recognition he couldn't place. I think so. My car just slipped," she stammered, glancing at the mud that had claimed her tires. "I can help you with that," he said simply, grabbing his toolkit from the back of the truck. He didn't ask for her name, didn't ask why she was out here at this hour. All he knew was someone needed help and he could do something about it. The woman watched him, a mix of gratitude and unease in her gaze. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice smooth and composed. There was something in the way she spoke, the authority underlying every word, that made Ethan straighten instinctively, as though he had unconsciously recognized her as more than just a stranger in trouble. Ethan got to work, the rain soaking him through as he jacked up her car and inspected the wheels. Noah, bundled in a small yellow raincoat, stood under the truck's canopy, holding an umbrella and chattering about how cool it was to see Dad fixing a car. The woman smiled faintly at the boy, a flash of warmth crossing her otherwise guarded features. "You're very kind," she said after a while, her eyes meeting Ethan's. There was an odd hesitation in her tone, as if she were considering something, weighing her words carefully. Ethan shrugged. "Just doing what anyone should," he said with a grin, though the weight of exhaustion tugged at the corners of his mouth. By the time the car was free, the rain had stopped, leaving a crisp, earthy scent in the air. The woman closed her door with a soft click and turned to him. "I owe you," she said, her voice deliberate. "I'd like to repay your kindness." Ethan shook his head. "No need. Just glad I could help. You take care now." The woman hesitated, then nodded. "I'll remember this." He watched her drive away, her sedan gliding smoothly down the road as though nothing had happened. He returned to his own truck, his mind already shifting back to the workday ahead, to bills, to Noah, to the constant, grinding worry that never seemed to leave him. Weeks later, Ethan found himself sitting nervously in a courtroom, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing above. He had been summoned for a minor dispute over a car repair, an administrative thing that shouldn't have been nerve-wracking at all. But every time he looked around at the imposing wooden panels, the severe expressions, the gavel waiting to pronounce judgment, his stomach twisted in knots. When the judge entered, Ethan froze. The woman from the roadside was sitting behind the bench, her dark eyes scanning the room with precision, her calm authority filling the space like electricity. Recognition dawned slowly, and then a jolt of shock hit him. The woman he had helped without hesitation, weeks ago, the stranger whose car had been stuck in the mud, was the judge who now held his fate in her hands. Ethan's throat went dry. He swallowed hard and tried to steady himself, but he couldn't stop the words from rushing into his mind. Did she remember me? Would she judge me harshly for my situation? Or would she? His thoughts tumbled, a mix of dread and hope. The courtroom was silent as the hearing began. He listened carefully, his hands fidgeting in his lap. But as the session progressed, he noticed something subtle, a softness in the judge's tone when she asked questions, a measured patience that seemed unusual in such a strict setting. And then, when it was his turn to speak, she leaned slightly forward, her eyes locking with his in a way that made his pulse quicken. "Mr. Walker," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I understand the circumstances here. Can you explain how this situation came about?" Ethan took a deep breath. He told the truth, every detail, the mistake, the miscommunication, the effort he had put into rectifying it. He expected impatience, a dismissive gesture, a gavel banging down. Instead, he saw her listening intently, her pen pausing over her notes as though weighing every word. And then, with a quiet nod, she spoke. I remember a kindness shown to me recently, a stranger who helped me when I needed it most. Ethan's heart skipped. Could it be? I have taken that into account, she continued, her eyes meeting his fully now. Your integrity, even in difficult circumstances, is noted. The ruling will reflect the full context of your situation. It was a moment suspended in time, the hum of the fluorescent lights fading into nothingness. Ethan felt a surge of relief and gratitude, his chest tightening as he realized that his simple act of helping someone, without thought of reward, had shaped the very outcome of his life. As he left the courtroom, Noah tugging at his hand, Ethan glanced back at the woman judge. She gave a faint, almost imperceptible nod, a hint of a smile touching her lips. No words were exchanged, but the silent acknowledgement carried more weight than any sentence or judgment could. Outside, the sunlight was warm, the world carrying on oblivious to the quiet drama that had just unfolded. Ethan lifted Noah into his arms, spinning him around with laughter, feeling the heavy burden of worry lighten for the first time in months. The city hummed with life, and Ethan knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, a simple act of kindness could ripple into consequences no one could foresee. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he couldn't help but think about how one person's compassion had intertwined their lives in ways that neither of them could have predicted. It was a reminder, Ethan thought, that goodness mattered, even when no one was watching, even when it seemed to go unnoticed. As they walked home hand in hand, the memory of a rainy morning, a stranded car, and a stranger's trust lingered in his mind. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew this: sometimes the smallest gestures could hold the power to change everything.